You are looking live.
Here comes the play. Goodman at the free throw line. Jumper.
He broke his ankles. He is Houdini.
Mickey Mantle don't care about you, so why should you care about him? Nobody cares.
That's not a good call. No.
You don't like that call.
I don't like that call.
Woo, 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 woo. Not so fast.
With that being said, let's get to Henry Ruggs III. And Henry Ruggs. So, for those of you that missed it, I'll kind of give you all the details from an ESPN article, just so that it's not, oh, you're speculating, you're this, you don't know what you're talking about. So according to prosecutors and ESPN, Henry Ruggs III, a former Las Vegas Raiders wide receiver, was driving 156 miles an hour in his Corvette with a blood alcohol content more than twice Nevada's legal limit. He slammed into the rear of a Toyota RAV4 at 3:40 a.m. on, Monday night, I guess Tuesday morning. The vehicle burned, killing a 23-year-old woman and her dog. Ruggs was traveling at 127 miles an hour when the airbags deployed in his vehicle, and there was also a loaded firearm found in his vehicle. The Las Vegas Raiders then released Henry Ruggs late Tuesday night. So there's a lot to get to here. And obviously disappointing, obviously heartbreaking to hear about the woman and the dog. Obviously, the loss of life and everybody affected there. But like, drunk driving is, I don't know where to start here, but it's just one of those things that is very preventable. So when it happens, in a fatal crash as a result of drunk driving, when that happens, it really gets me upset and it irks me. Because, as I said, it's very preventable. And according to another local Baltimore guy that I read called Drew's Morning Dish, he said every player, NFL player, has the opportunity through an agreement with the NFLPA, the NFL Players Association, to call a 1-800 number that will dispatch a vehicle to pick them up should they be out and somewhere and have too much to drink. They will dispatch a vehicle to pick them up, no questions asked. So the laziness and lack of responsibility from Henry Ruggs III is stunning. And I've mentioned this a few times to my roommates and my friends, the NFL for these players is a full-time job. It is. It's a full-time job. You may say, oh, they're playing football, it's not really that much of a job. No, the NFL is a full-time job for these guys. And I asked my roommates and my friends, and I'm going to ask everybody listening or watching or whatever, I'm going to ask you the same question. How many people with a full-time job, with a salaried full-time job, how many people in that category, how many of those people do you know that are out drinking at Topgolf until midnight and then proceed to drive home under the influence at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Monday night, Tuesday morning? Everybody that I asked that question to said nobody. Nobody. There's nobody I know that does that. And same thing. I don't know anybody who has a full-time job that has been out till 3 a.m. drinking and driving. Nobody. And for the very least, NFL players shouldn't be average Joes and Joe Schmoes shouldn't be doing it. Guys that are making millions of dollars a year shouldn't be doing it. As Drew's Morning Dish said, every NFL player has the opportunity to have an agreement with the NFLPA to be able to call a 1-800 number that will dispatch a vehicle to pick them up, no questions asked. And he said that the Raiders have a very similar thing. Combine that, right? If for whatever reason Henry Ruggs didn't want to drop 20, if for whatever reason he didn't want to drop an Andrew Jackson on an Uber, which for goodness sake, you're making millions of dollars, call an Uber or Lyft or whatever they've got out there, right? But if for whatever reason you didn't want to drop an Andrew Jackson on an Uber, do the 1-800 thing. Like, and for Henry Ruggs, like, the thing is, he had a friend that died as a result of a drunk driving thing, you know. So, like, he's been, like, everybody has known or been affected by this at one point in their lives. And whether directly or indirectly, it's just really hard to wrap my head around how somebody who's been affected by this, who has millions of dollars, who has a full-time job, like, how could you be that irresponsible? Like, I don't get it. And this has nothing to do with, you know, the NFL has come out, you know, with racial equality and everything like that. This has nothing to do with that. This is just about ethics and you know, responsibility. You do not do that. No way. No, there's no excuse for it. There's no excuse for it, and everybody knows it. Full-time job. He's out late. And not just late. Like, now I'm not saying like 11:30, 12. This was 3:40 in the morning that he crashed that he had crashed. He proceeds to drive home more than twice the legal limit of alcohol in his system with a loaded gun in the car. How would anybody how do you make those decisions? What leads you to think that you're going to get away with that? I'm at a loss of words. It is unbelievable. It's disgusting. It's horrendous. I throw out every term you can think of. I'm glad the Raiders released him, and this may seem a little bit harsh, but I don't want to see him back in the NFL. I don't. Maybe it's one thing if, you know, like the Josh Jacobs thing where he just, you know, he was drunk driving and he crashed into the tunnel, like the side of the tunnel, like, you know, that's one thing. But like all the things that came out in this thing, like 3:40 in the morning, twice the legal limit of alcohol in his system, like driving 156 miles an hour. I mean, let's just think about that for a minute. If you divide that in half, he's still speeding. Like 156 miles an hour? That's like, I mean, how do you like drive that fast when you're sober? Much less when you're hammered. And he wasn't the only one in the car. He was like a girlfriend or a friend or somebody else was in the car with him. Loaded gun in the car, 156 miles. Like, I don't get it. I really don't get it. The lack of responsibility is shocking. And I just don't know what leads you to make decisions like that. And not to place blame elsewhere, but the other person that was with him, how come they didn't say anything? Or at least maybe they did, but we haven't heard about it, right? Like, did they say anything? Like, what? Because I mean, as a passenger, I would say, hey, maybe you shouldn't be driving, Henry. Maybe you shouldn't be driving. And like, I don't know. I think that the lack of accountability is stunning. You know, and I don't know. I just think that one thing could have you know, stopped this whole thing. One thing, one phone call could have saved a person's life and another person's career. Like, you know, he's done. He's done. And he only has himself to blame for it. And I just, again, I don't know. It's really stunning. I'm really at a loss for words because, like, what more can you say? on this. It's just unbelievable. It is truly stunning that these things happen. And we look at sports leagues, NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA, so on and so forth. We look at players, and as young kids, you watch these players growing up, and you say, hey, you look at them as a role model, right? And then when those role models go out and make these, do these things, and it's not just Henry Ruggs, right? Josh Gordon has been, in and out of the league a million times for drug issues, and every Ravens fan knows remembers Ray Rice, and Aaron Hernandez with the Patriots, and Ray Lewis had his alleged things, and Roethlisberger's had his deal, and Deshaun Watson now, and Kareem Hunt, and Tyreek Hill, and Adrian Peterson, and I mean, think about everybody over the years, players that have had issues with domestic violence, drunk driving, drug addiction, what else is out there? Murder in some cases, sexual assault, sexual misconduct. Like, I think that, and the NFL, sure, you can say the NFL's changing, but why is the NFL just now making a why are they just making the effort to change now?